Yeah, I definitely identify as European. I grew up in a family where we used to go on holiday within Europe quite often, and my German identity to me is as much part of me as being European. When I started first grade, for example, the euro had just been introduced, so Europe, the euro, has always been part of me and who I am. For me, my affirmative European moment was stepping outside of Europe for the first time when I was 16. I had to go to the US Embassy to get a passport because I couldn't use my national identity card to travel. And then, yeah, living and studying in the US made me realize that borders aren't just lines on a map that you see in geography class, but it's a very hard and harsh reality for some people. And I was lucky that I had a German passport that allowed me to study there and get all the documents without issues. But I think that really opened my gaze to what a privilege it is to be European. And then living and studying with girls from all over the world, I think at the age of 16 really showed me that what I thought was normal or good or bad was really a lot of my culture and how I'd been brought up. And in comparison to where other people were from, I was often grouped as one of the Europeans. And whilst that is how I would identify myself, this experience has shown me how much of Europe really is in me. I think one of the worst European moments was definitely the migration crisis of 2015. All the rhetoric that sprung up around it, the way that people's lives were reduced to a policy issue really, really affected me at the time. And I think having worked at a German ministry recently on migration as well has made me realize how much of an impact this event has had on policymakers as well, and their fear of not repeating 2015. I think that's a very bad development, that there is a fear of giving opportunity to right-wing parties to say that we're letting too many people into our country rather than doing the right thing and actually saving and improving people's lives and giving them the chance to start over. Apart from that, I think 2015 really was a stress test for Europe and showed that the level of solidarity with countries at the fringes of Europe really is a lot lower than what countries at the center might like it to be. One of the best European moments was definitely the Paris Agreement. At the time I was studying sustainable development at university, and I remember learning about all the different issues of mitigation and adaptation to climate change, and actually seeing so many world leaders come together and be on the same page for once and actually agree to fairly radical changes in the future to come, I think was a real spark of hope. That multilateralism isn't dead and that we can change if only we want to. Must be the freedom to study and live anywhere in the EU. It's been remarkable how I could just choose to study in Scotland and in England and then go on to work in one of those countries without really needing much else than a passport. And so, yeah, traveling and living elsewhere in the world, in America or in Indonesia, has shown me that this is definitely not usual and really much the exception worldwide. And so, yeah, I very much appreciate that. Is to have an effective strategy to combat climate change. I think we need to have phased out all fossil fuels by then and to be completely reliant on renewable energy sources EU-wide. We need to make public transport a lot more accessible, need to widen the network and need to make it more efficient and a lot greener as well. We need to ban all single-use plastics where they aren't completely necessary, and we need to transform our economy to be a more circular economy so that we reuse the resources that we have and that have already been produced and make the most with what we have already. And I think the most important thing in that is that this transition needs to be just EU-wide, that we need to create jobs in future-oriented industries, and yes, so that a lot of people can become part of this vision of making Europe a place where we don't just emit, but also combat climate change and mitigate on what's to come in the next few decades.